He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, here, welcome to the Marlow Show. I have not reset the board. I'm supposed to reset the board, so we'll do it in style. We'll do it live.
What of these onesies?
Yeah, we got to do that to reset the clips after I'm reviewing the clips. All right, welcome to the show. Later in the show, I will play my speech from Turning Point USA that I delivered on Saturday, which was very well received. I got a lot of great feedback on it, a lot of great shares online. Curious what you think. Always nice to talk to the youths and also kind of put some, it's a slightly different format, which I enjoy. And I make a big warning, which is that basically we got a binary choice in this country. That is to continue MAGA as represented by the state of Florida, where I gave the speech, or we can go for the Democrat socialist version of America as embodied by California. And it's looking more and more like New York. I mean, we got Zohran Mamdani. I mean, it seems like all the forces are aligning to make sure that he becomes the mayor of New York. Of course, he's my endorsement, which is, big. I mean, that was huge for him when he picked that up. But Andrew Cuomo is going to run as an independent, I guess. And then Curtis Lewa doesn't look like he wants to drop out. Eric Adams, who is not a really very likable figure, who's been the mayor, he's going to probably run as well. So unless the three of those guys can pick one of them between the three, which doesn't look like they can, it's going to be Zohran. And we're going to have an unbelievable experiment. I mean, the guy is such a radical. And the latest one I heard is he's going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, I guess, if he comes to New York. So he's very harsh words for Israel and very not as harsh words for Islamists around the world. And we will see how that goes. The wife beating comment that I've been making about how he doesn't want to send police to domestic violence incidents is just, that is pure Sharia is what it is. I'm not sure that that's necessarily what inspired that comment. I'm not reading his mind. But when you have a Muslim coming in to perhaps run one of the biggest cities on the planet, and he's kind of poo-pooing and downplaying domestic violence, it's not a great pattern. So let's see how it goes. But it will be a virus that spreads. If he wins, it will inspire others who are young socialists to try to get more involved in public life. And that poses a big threat because there are a lot of low information voters out there who have not been taught much in our public school system and could be susceptible to a charismatic figure with a toilet bowl white smile and a nice attitude. There's a guy named Omar Fateh, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I never pronounce things right. You guys know that about me. He's being framed as the next Zohran Mamdani running for mayor of Minneapolis. And he is an assemblyman there, and his background is he's accused Lauren Boebert of white supremacy. He's proposed legislation including free college tuition, which is, of course, just a handout to the universities, which are cesspools of leftism, incubators for some of the worst thought that we produce in the country. He wants to cut police funding and ICE funding. He's been a defund the police guy. He wants carbon fees for climate change agenda. He wants minimum wage jacked up to $20 an hour. There is just there's just no end to the leftism. Every bad idea you've ever heard of is embodied by this guy, and could be the next mayor of Minneapolis. Young guy, high energy, and that's the formula. So far left. Or do we do more MAGA? And I'm hoping we do more MAGA, but we got to keep our coalition together, which is why the conversation has been so much on Jeffrey Epstein and the not release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. It's a very tough spot for President Trump, who I don't think is very interested in this. I think he's interested in getting his agenda back on track, which has been good. He's had a really good run as of late. But a lot of the people in his base still want to talk about Epstein because they feel betrayed. I don't necessarily think that that's a commensurate response with the lack of the release of Epstein files. I think it's very complicated to release these things, as I've been saying on the show. And I had very, very low expectations, as I've said repeatedly to this audience. But that's not satisfactory to a lot of people in the base audience. And I think that that's a real issue because this coalition needs to get bigger, not smaller. And you always run the risk of whenever anything is attempted in Washington, your coalition can get smaller because it takes a while for things to be proven effective. And so when things go into effect, you get the Democrats who will never be supportive of anything Trump does. And if 20% of Republicans aren't supportive, then all of a sudden you're at a 40% issue. And that's something to be very wary of, because Trump has got to do stuff. And that's why outsiders, particularly in midterm elections, tend to do so well. So the Democrats ran a dirty trick today, and it was very clever because they're very clever in these atmospheres because they're fighters, they're warriors, they know how to do this stuff. They put forward a proposal to force the release of Epstein files, and Republicans rejected it. Now, the Republicans, all but I think one of them, rejected it. It makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. First of all, it was part of a defense appropriations bill, not appropriate. And the minority party doesn't set the agenda for the Congress. The Republicans are the majority, so they set the agenda. But still, the blaring headline, and I'm looking at it right now on the Drudge Report, is Republicans move to block Epstein files. So the left, which unfortunately Drudge is a part of now, but this is across the board, so across all the platforms, saying that it is the Republicans blocking it. Now, this is business as usual. This has no place in defense bill, and Republicans aren't going to let Democrats set the agenda, especially when the whole point is to get Democrats to get Republicans to fight amongst themselves. But that's what's happening. We are fighting amongst ourselves, and it is, I think, fueling a revival in energy for the left. And you can see it from our friend Hank Johnson, the man who believed that perhaps that if enough people stand on the island of Guam in the same spot, that they could topple over the entire island. Well, he was out there with a brand new song. I've played some of his songs in the past, but he's got a new song that's about the Epstein files. Let's enjoy these sonorous tones from Congressman Hank Johnson.
Congressman Hank Johnson coming to give you some more ear candy or perhaps an earache. But I'm going to do my best off of this Jason Isbell tune, Dreamsicle. Epstein died by suicide.
Epstein died by suicide is the first lyric. Okay, I'll try to read the lyrics for people because it's hard to make out exactly what he's saying. But I like the self-deprecating ear candy or earache. That's kind of funny. Some of you got in the audience have got to be a Jason Isbell fan. Someone's got to explain this guy to me. I've heard some of his music. It doesn't do anything for me, and yet he seems to be has a fanatical fan base. And I've noticed a cross section of mostly a lot of liberals. So I think we've covered him in Breitbart when he says stupid stuff. But I understand it. If one of you can explain him to me, that'd be nice. But so he's doing a cover, and it's about Epstein. Let's see how this looks. It looks like he's got a better guitar though than last time. This thing looks nice.
Believe that, and you must be blind. You've been telling us you released the file, but
you've been telling us you released the files.
But where are they? We've gone along with what's been told. We've had plenty of time. You're in control.
We've gone along with what's been told. You've had plenty of time. You're in control. Good point.
But when you say you will withhold the Epstein file, dreamsicle on a summer night.
So, okay, this is not good. So he's got the Epstein verse. That was pretty good. That was pretty well written. And then now I guess he's back into the regular song, Dreamsicle on a folding lawn chair. I mean, it's just, I don't want to think of Hank Johnson's Dreamsicle as not something I want to focus on today. It's early in the day and a Tuesday. This is just I'm not here for that.
In a folding lawn chair. Howling at the moon, release the Epstein files soon.
And now he's back on Epstein. All right, that's good stuff. It's better than the last one, right, Misty? We agree on that. That was pretty good. So, all right, that's where we're at. So we're at Hank Johnson singing, and I'll tell you, I track the numbers. You guys know this. I try to bring you on the show things that interest me the most, plus things that are most important. But every morning and every afternoon, I go through data and I look at what's trending, whether or not I feel like it's for our audience. And I'll tell you, the left is having a field day over this. They're loving it. They're loving every second of it because it makes us look weak. And so, look, I think we'll get past it. I think it'll blow over. But again, we're I'm doing the show, I'm coming in, and it should be happy times. And we're 9 minutes in, nothing happy. But I got a lot of happy stuff coming up next. Okay, so we are in, I think, a huge opportunity here, thanks to Congressman Comer and others for their investigation into the Joe Biden Autopen. As I said yesterday, I think it's a total smoking gun that Biden had the presence of mind and body to physically sign the pardon for Hunter Biden. So we're told, don't know all the details for sure, but that's what the media reports have suggested, and not for others, suggesting that Biden knew the other pardons were problematic. And I think that's game on to haul everyone in, figure out what they knew, when they knew it, who was directed to do what Autopen signings, and perhaps nullify pretty much everything with the Autopen. Again, it'll be a issue that the lawyers and the judges will end up deciding, I'm sure. But it is potentially, we could see huge swaths of Biden's final agenda items get thrown out, which would be amazing. And the media is so desperate here. NBC equated the James Comer using a digital signature and to Biden's Autopen. So this is, I can't believe, I was joking, I was on Newsmax earlier, I was joking around about this, like just picturing the newsroom at NBC, all the people who would have got this copy, all the people who would have reviewed this story, and then to put it out online, then to tweet it and to celebrate it. But they're equating the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, giving blanket pardons, enacting executive actions to command broad swaths of the government to, I think it was James Comer using Adobe Acrobat to get subpoenas. So that was I used a digital signature earlier this week. I get a little extra bonus because I recorded the audiobook for Breaking the Law. And I had to sign, and I didn't print it out. I signed it on my thing. Like, it's just like, it's not a big deal. It was my signature. I just did it with a mouse, and it's done. That stuff is done. It's not the same as you're the president of the United States and you're using a Autopen, which who knows who's signing it, who knows who directed the signature. And that they put this out there. They went to print with this. It just shows you the NBC, Comcast, Universal, the fake news media is just unbelief, but beyond belief. They never stop stepping on rakes. And we're here for it. I'm here. But I do think that this is a real vein we can open up here in terms of pushing back on the left's, the Biden agenda, and to start getting some justice. I've been saying this. There's been no justice for President Trump. There's been no justice for his voters for all that was done by Joe Biden, his Department of Justice, and his executive branch, and it is time to start unwinding it. And I want to have a lot more focus on that than, chasing unicorns. Okay. Good stuff that's happening. Feds are going to reverse Biden's catch and release strategy. A lot of good immigration news. And the Trump administration also cracking down on employers hiring illegal aliens in Arizona. We've got migrant activist organizations are tracking ICE in the meantime. So we're seeing a huge uptick in violence against ICE, as you guys noted, or as I've noted to you guys. This has been going on for a while, and it's only going to continue because the left continues to talk about it in a way that they want fights with ICE. Misty has done a nice job of compiling a bunch of different clips, and not all of these are within the last day or two, but some of these are slightly older. But this is important because it shows you that they all want ICE unmasked and targeted. This is the mainstream talking point from the Democrat left. Here's our favorite. Congressman Jerry Nadler, famous for eating hot dogs straight out of the package in front of an open refrigerator, dunks it straight in the mustard jar. That's his favorite snack, Frankfurters. Here he is talking about ICE.
But these people are wearing masks and are totally unidentified. And the question is why? The question is why. It's completely improper. And again, one has to assume they're hiding something, or they're hiding misbehavior, because otherwise, why would they be wearing masks and denying their identities?
Well, they'd be wearing masks because there's been a 7-fold uptick in violence against ICE. And the doxing would go on, online digital fisking that would take place. So they're trying to protect themselves and their lives and their family. That's why, Congressman. He's so short here. If you all are missing the visuals, he's terrible optics. He should have got a stool. He can't quite get his chin over the seal. There's a seal for the House of Representatives in front of him on the podium. And he's also in front of Dan Goldman, who's congressman. You guys know him as one of the impeachment managers for Trump, a left-wing guy, heavily featured in Breaking the Law, one of the bad guys in the book. He is like 7 feet tall, so Nader looks especially short. It's pretty awesome to see this one. Okay, let's do some more. We got this is Tim Walz at a
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the street.
Gazpacho, it's a cold tomato soup. It's a modern-day gazpacho. That's what he thinks Donald Trump is using.
Up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared. To be clear, there's no way for us to know whether they were actually criminals or not, because they refused to give them a trial.
They're all criminals unless they end up having legitimate amnesty claims. And this is why the catch and release needs to end. And this is why Remain in Mexico and was the best policy under Trump. It's better than a wall. And the wall's great, but we need a wall. We need to finish the wall, big, beautiful wall with a big, beautiful duh, okay? Like, we need all that stuff. But overall, the parole pipeline is the worst part of our immigration system, where people claim asylum or they claim that they have some legitimate right to be here. They get paroled into the country, and they're allowed to stay until their court date comes up, which is years down the road. And you multiply this by millions and millions of people, and the years will just keep adding up. And it shows chaos. It cements lawlessness. It makes us all lose faith in our American identity. The downstream effects are so deep. And then he gives this talking point to guys like Walz where they're being denied their rights. Well, but the bottom line is 99, 98, whatever the percentage is, of people have absolutely zero right to be here and should not have cut the line, whatever the percentages are. I mean, maybe it's much higher than 99%. But because, there's probably someone out there who has a legit claim to be here. And because there could be one person out of a million, we have to go through due process. No, we can't do that. There's no way to run a country. So, and then now Trump using the ice gazpacho. You don't put the ice in the gazpacho. It's chill, but you don't need the ice in it. See, this can get very confusing.
Them a trial. We're supposed to just take their word for it. And when duly elected members of Congress tried to exercise their constitutional right of oversight at an ICE facility, they get shoved around and threatened with arrest. And when courts told them repeatedly to knock it off, they brazenly defy them.
That's a commencement address. Just note that if you see this, he's got all the regalia, the academia regalia. He's got the cap and gown on. So he's speaking to graduates, unless they're graduating in left-wing pro illegal immigration studies, then I just don't understand. How could that be the message? It's just so interesting because it's you think of big politicians as a great get for a university. Guy was nominated for vice president for a university to have as a commencement speaker. They're some of the worst because all they do is stuff that's self-serving. All right. Let's see. Well, we got more. There's more. I'll play a Hakeem Jeffries, but Missy pulled bunches and bunches of these. There's so many of them.
Every single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach and are trying to hide their identities from the American people will be unsuccessful in doing that. This is America. This is not the Soviet Union. We're not behind the Iron Curtain. This is not the 1930s. And every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will, of course, be identified.
No one ever asked, why do you want them unmasked? Because they're just doing the work of the Donald Trump administration. And we know who the people who are directing them. It's Stephen Miller, it's Tom Homan, it's Kristi Noem, it's Donald Trump himself. Those are the guys in charge. So why do you want them unmasked? So that you can harass them. That's why. So you could target them. So you can make their lives miserable on a personal level. It's evil. It's an evil position from Hakeem Jeffries. But if he says it in this staccato voice while he moves his hands, which I am doing at the moment, then it is better to do it this way. Like, it makes me actually hopeful because I feel like these guys are just so easy to beat. Maxwell Frost, Democrat congressman, who's getting increasingly more radical, one of the champions of Santa Priego Garcia, he said Trump is trying to ethnically cleanse this country of certain types of immigrants. Then why are legal immigrants increasingly coming to Trump's side? Why is Trump gaining in the polls with Latinos and blacks? it's not a real message. It's just that old school, we're going to demonize and shut down debate, and we're not actually going to hear what he has to say. And so I find that to be very, I think that's great in a way, because it's not going to work. It's not going to be effective. And I think we're just going to get more converts because smart people don't like being talked to like that. I pulled this clip a couple of days ago, but I hadn't gotten around to playing it yet. This is Mark Andreessen, who is a venture capitalist known for Andreessen Horowitz, which is I guess, what do we call it? An investment. But anyway, he's been involved in some of the biggest tech startups over the last 20 years, incredibly networked Silicon Valley. And he's one of these guys, very smart and thoughtful, and was not good on immigration. He was previously very bad on immigration. And he's starting to come around, and just because he's a guy who's got a super genius intelligence level. And I've followed him for a long time because I've always found him to be very intelligent, but also very wrong on immigration in particular. And, you know, when the left is the spokespeople, like the ones that I bring up on the show, then you get smart guys like that start going the other direction because they don't like being talked to like they're fools. So check out this little commentary.
Nobody wants to talk about, but I've started to talk about the intersection of DEI and immigration that has really, I think, warped, our perceptions on high-skilled immigration over the last 50 years. You look at like the foreign enrollment rates of the top universities, which went from, like 2 or 3 or 4% 50 years ago to whatever, 27 or 30 or 50.
And Columbia's over half, right?
70% or whatever it is. And so there's been this massive transformation in who gets educated. And then there's been this massive transformation of who gets admitted through affirmative action. And then, as we now know at DEI. And again, this goes straight to the political divide in the country, which is if you're parents of a kid where I grew up and you've got a smart kid and you think you're going to get them into, a top university in this country, like you are fooling yourself. There is this really fundamental question, which is like what level of untapped talent exists in this country that a combination of DEI and immigration have basically cut out of the loop for the last 50 years. And how long can we have this, story to everybody in the Midwest and the South that says, sorry, you're, because of historical oppression, your kids are SOL.
It just fantastic. I don't interrupt because there's so many amazing points in there. It's hard to even know where to jump in, but he's talking about how this compact that we've had in this country, that we are supposed to take care of Americans and American citizens and try to make lives better for American families, has been completely abandoned. And it's been abandoned by both political parties. There's only the MAGA movement that is trying to reel it back in. But that universities have gotten more exclusive towards against Americans and for foreigners to come in, buy their ways in. DEI have less qualified people, but because you've got the right skin tone and you've got the right amount of woke points, you surpass people who are excellent. We got to where we are in this country to be the greatest country on God's green earth by valuing excellence and being champions and trying to find the best within all of us. And now it is trying to find the wokeness and trying to see how many people we can import. This is going to destroy us culturally. It's already happening because it's a lie that we've been told to families that if you work hard, you'll get ahead in this country. It's becoming increasingly a lie that you can get the things that that our parents got to do just through hard work and keeping our nose to the grindstone and trying our best. And this is the formula why. He's walking us through it. So the opportunity, there are fewer doors open for American citizens because we are importing people to compete with us, and we are elevating people who are less qualified because of things other than excellence. Do we want to live in that society? I don't think so. So, all right. So important, but we're picking up converts because a lot of people have reasonable opinions on things, and they don't like I think the extreme negativity we're getting from the left. Other things that are out there, Donald Trump announced a trade deal with Indonesia. He continues to cut trade deals, and they continue to get pushed down the headlines for other nonsense, but it's okay. I can live with that. But according to a printout from Trump from a Social Truth Bomb, Indonesia's committed purchasing $15 billion in U.S. energy, $4.5 billion in American agricultural products, and 50 Boeing jets, many of them 777s. Indonesia will pay the United States a 19% tariff on all goods they export to us, while the U.S. exports to Indonesia are to be tariff and non-tariff barrier free. Wow, that's amazing. And so that's great. So we're going to give them a bunch of stuff. They're going to pay for it. And the tariffs seem to be more equitable for us. Just unbelievable stuff. Just amazing. More victories for Trump. A Maha win. 40 ice cream companies are pledging to cut artificial dyes from all products. And then the left is trying to throw some cold water on the economy, that saying that inflation went up. But another thing that's important is the consumer price index, which we track at Breitbart. Core consumer prices are rising less than expected for the 5th month in a row. So this is where the media spin is just not on base. John Carney has a report for us at Breitbart News. Consumer prices rose 0.33% in June, but the economists had predicted it would be much higher than that. The consumer price index rose 2.7% a year ago, and that was above the forecast of 2.6%. And so now we're at a place where it rises 0.3%, but it is beneath expectations. And still we are seeing, which we're at 0.7%, we're still seeing the media try to frame this as some sort of a bad thing. We are still doing great in this realm. People know it. You can tell it, but with people's spending patterns, they feel like inflation has calmed down and is calming down even despite the tariffs. And it is the tariffs are adding to our surplus. And it is, and there are some concerns, sure, but it is overall, we are doing, I think, far better than anyone anticipated. We've been told constantly that tariffs are going to be inflationary, and it's mixed information, but that's so much better than what we were told. So this is really, really, I think, noteworthy that there is ample pushback. If you look at some of the numbers, they're just not that scary. The headlines are scary, but the numbers aren't nearly as scary. And if they do get scary, I will tell you. But John Carney's big breakdown for us at Breitbart News, as always, you should check that out. But overall, these are pretty flat numbers and way better than expectations for the 5th month in a row. So I think that is sort of the key elements of what I wanted to bring up on today's broadcast. I'm going to get into my speech now that I gave over the weekend at Turning Point USA Student Action Summit, which is one of the big gatherings of conservatives every year. And I think that will be something that, I put a lot of work into these things, and hopefully you will enjoy the presentation. Check it out. All right. We know that good coffee is kind of easy to find. There's a lot of good coffee out there, but great coffee, that's a different story. And when I was introduced to Crockett Coffee, I knew this was something special. This is roasted to perfection in small batches on purpose by experts who love the taste of great coffee and are conscientious about how it's made and who's making it. It's roasted in our nation's heartland, and it's delivered fresh to your home. When you enjoy Crockett Coffee, you're also supporting an anti-communist, pro-American brand of coffee founded by our friends Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, who are good broadcasters and are apparently dang good at making a cup of coffee as well. The perfect type of thing to sip at a mountain campfire like a Western settler, or in your office while you're doing a podcast. It is just really high quality stuff. You guys know I'm a coffee snob, married to an Italian. I like to hit that dark roast. They also sent me some mild roast, which was delicious. They got a light roast. They got a decaf. They got a mushroom organic blend. That's the new hotness. They got K-Cups. Lots of different options for you. And part of your support goes to Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which is a great way to give back and remind people that Crockett Coffee, people there, they pledge to never forget. Easy. Go online, crockettcoffee.com. Crockett like it as in Davy Crockett. crockettcoffee.com. Use my first name, Alex. You get 20% off your first order. That's crockettcoffee.com. Use my name, Alex, as the promo code for 20% off. Good people and a dang good cup of coffee. You guys know I would not endorse it if it wasn't quite delightful. Morning, everyone. It is so great to be in the free state of Florida. I'm Alex Marlow, editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, and I come from a tiny state on the other side of the country that's known for all sorts of virtues. Tell me if you can recognize it. High taxes, uncontrollable wildfires, and utter lawlessness. Okay, if you still don't know, we're a state that invented illegal alien privilege. You think that's a joke? In my state, if you show up uninvited, not only do we not kick you out, we give you everything you want. Free healthcare, free education. You don't have to pay taxes if you don't want. Because you see, we're compassionate to everyone aside from law-abiding citizens. See, of course, I'm talking about California, the state that decided to take the public parks away from children and turn them over to the homeless and the fentanyl dealers. This is a state that's so woke that the leaders won't be satisfied until there isn't a single woman that will reach the podium
in a women's track and field event. They've redefined the American dream to a chicken in every pot and a penis in every girl's locker room. That is the California dream. There's a reason they call it the left coast. And California's been the butt of a lot of jokes lately. But it truly is a cautionary tale, because the future of this country has come down to a binary choice between the example set by MAGA, the MAGA America as represented by Florida, or Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris America, which is represented by California. You have a choice between illegal alien children harvesting illegal marijuana or Alligator Alcatraz. Did you guys catch how Trump was explaining to illegal aliens how to evade the alligators? He really did this. He was explaining that you have to run a zigzag in order to get by them. It's actually called running serpentine, which is ironic because they're also pythons at Alligator Alcatraz. So you have to run serpentine in order to beat the python. That's so cool. And that's why the next prison, I'm making a recommendation, Python Panopticon. Try it. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. Trump is one of the funniest people on earth. There's no doubt about it. But the choice really comes down to more law and order or more lawlessness. A government that prioritizes its citizens or a government that prioritizes invaders and themselves. It's not much of a choice in my view. And that's really the issue at heart, if you think about it. What's ailing this society is the perception that the powers that be exist to protect their own power, their own lives, their own freedoms, their own wealth, and not yours. Not the citizens, not we the people. That's what Donald Trump identified more than 10 years ago, and that's why he's always had my attention since he came down that elevator. So I'm a researcher by nature. I like to go deep on the issues to try to bring out stories that people have missed. And that's what we've done at Breitbart News for 20 years, and it's put us at the forefront of the MAGA movement. We spotted it first, before it even had a name, and we're very proud of that. So I spent the last year researching the lawfare against President Trump, the weaponization of the legal system against him. And I have a forthcoming book coming out in a few weeks called Breaking the Law, and it hits the shelves soon. And the crux of the book is how there's a legal superstructure that low-level prosecutors, to law schools, to district judges, to the Justice Department, to Joe Biden's White House itself, coordinated and conspired to put Donald Trump behind bars and bankrupt him if they couldn't. I want to say something flat out. That is not democracy. That is election interference. It's a shocking story, and the extent of the conspiracy is vast. It's not all known at this time. But one of the conclusions that I drew, if it wasn't already obvious from my time in California, the left hates law and order. There's no greater evidence than this than the border. Well, maybe there's one other piece of evidence. You know, when Zohran Mamdani said that he will, all of our favorites. He said he'd stop sending cops to people who are going through domestic violence, like it's some sort of a syndrome. Zohran, you know that's just game on for wife beaters, right? And he's got to be cautious about that. It's not a good look for a guy whose faith is not exactly equitable for the ladies, if you know what I mean. So, you know he's not a communist either, right, Zohran? So he says he wants to seize the means of production, but he doesn't mean any of that. He's not authentic. Do you know how I know he's not a communist? His teeth. You got to check out his teeth. They're not just white. They're toilet bowl white. They're whiter than Joe Biden's, and we've seen Joe Biden's teeth, right? You don't get that sort of color of teeth without capitalism. That's cosmetic dentistry. That's Zoom. That's veneers. It's capitalism. He's a fraud. He's a phony, and we all know that. But we've got to get the word out because the stakes are so high. You can't underestimate the left's ability to sell bad ideas to the public. That's what they've been doing in my home state. And Trump exposed them. But they're working every single day to try to stop him. When Trump wins, the deep state and the lawfare apparatus try to stop his agenda. When Trump loses, then they try to bankrupt him. They try to throw him in jail and his family as well. If they truly had their wish, he'd be dead by now. By now, you know tomorrow's an anniversary. It's a big anniversary. The anniversary of the day that God intervened yet again to save our country. Not only do I believe that is exactly what happened on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, but President Trump agrees with me. I asked him about it a few days after. He described in riveting detail. He noted that it was a miracle that if the illegal immigration poster that he was referencing was on the opposite side of the podium, he'd be dead because he'd have turned a different direction. He noted the miracle that if the bullet hadn't grazed his ear, he wouldn't have dropped to the ground and the shooter would have had another clean shot. And then he added this dark bit of humor. He said, if the bullet would have hit me, my head would have exploded like a watermelon, and all of our enemies would have had that video for propaganda. Which is simultaneously the darkest thing I've ever heard and objectively hilarious. Who else can do that? But God had other plans for him. He had other plans for us, as he always has. We are an exceptional country, and we are winning a lot right now. We're finally on the comeback trail after what felt like years in the wilderness. But I speak to you today at a time that our movement is going through a little bit of infighting over Iran, over the big beautiful bill, over the Epstein files. And we can and should debate this stuff. We need to ask questions. We need to demand answers. We need to demand accountability. But I want to offer a note of positivity. When the MAGA movement began over a year ago, there weren't a lot of us. And those of us who called ourselves America First nationalists were called racists. Now, the whole world is calling Trump daddy. And he is daddy. He is. He's the father figure they don't deserve, but they absolutely need. That's daddy. You see, what people don't understand about Trump is that this movement and President Trump, they see us as agents of chaos. They see him as an agent of chaos. No, he's an agent of peace. He's the most rational politician in Washington. I know this. I lived there a long time. The town is run by absolutely crazy people. These were the people that told us tariffs were going to cause inflation. Well, we learned this week we have a budget surplus. They told us he tanked the economy. Well, how's that going? Stock market, all-time high. Gold, all-time high. Bitcoin, all-time high. Unfortunately, home prices are also all-time high, so we got to work on that. We got time, though. We got to work on that. They told us his bombing campaign would lead to World War III. Instead, could mean Donald J. Trump getting a Nobel Peace Prize. Maybe 2, maybe 3. Who knows? He deserves a lot. Brokered peace in Africa, too. He's got a lot of work he's doing. They told us that border enforcement was impossible, racist even. And now crossings are down to literally 0. At the same time, President Trump's polls are going up with minorities. He's standing up to China. He's cutting taxes. He's deregulating. We're building nuclear. We're drilling offshore. We're drilling onshore. It feels like the winning might never stop. But it will if we don't keep our eye on the ball. The institutional left that we've been working against at Breitbart News for the last 20 years is well organized. It's well funded, and they're ready to oppose us at every turn. They're feeling a dynamic, persuasive, charismatic crop of young leaders that are ready to take all of us, all of you on. Leaders like the great Jasmine Crockett. The woman who once said, "We're going to be in yo face. We're going to be on yo asses. And we are going to make sure you understand what democracy looks like. She finna run for president, guys. At least I hope she does. Do you think she's an op from Trump? Do you think so? He has this knack of getting them to embrace the worst ideas ever. You guys remember Saint Abrego Garcia, who is a clear human smuggler? They pull him over. He's driving across country. No one's got any luggage. Everyone in the car lists the address as Abrego's house. And the Democrats are like, that's our guy. We're going to bat for him. And how about the latest one, where Gavin Newsom's out there defending illegal alien children laboring in the pot field? That's child slavery. And the Democrats are all out there. They're embracing it. These aren't 80-20 issues. These are 97-3 issues, as President Trump is known to say. And we kid around about this, but my point is that so long as there is a combination of Obama and Schumer cherry-picked judges, infinite billions of dollars from the institutional left in our politics, our victory will not be absolute. There has not yet been justice for President Trump. There has not yet been justice for President Trump. Who do you know that has been held accountable for all the lawfare? Who do you know that has been held accountable for trying to bankrupt them with cruel and unusual punishments by way of fines? Who are the ones who are getting held to account for trying to interfere in our democracy, for making sure President Trump campaigned in a courthouse instead of on the campaign trail for his 2024 re-election bid? We need to turn over every stone. We need to do every single investigation. We need to make sure there is full accountability to the American people for what the deep state is doing every single day in Washington, D.C. And the only people who will demand that is this movement. Now, I play a small and proud part of the history of Turning Point in that Charlie Kirk came to me over a decade ago. We were at Breitbart News, me and my colleague Joel Pollack, and had a story for us. Charlie expected us to write it up. It was some bias going on his campus. And instead, what we decided to do, well, why don't you write it? He said, me? I'm just a kid. Exactly. That's the point. That's authenticity. That's how you build a movement. That's how you build a coalition, is you get the people with skin in the game. So we wrote it up. And Charlie was everywhere. How's it going for Charlie so far? His career? Pretty good. He's provided an incredible platform, an incredible launch pad for a lot of terrific ideas. That's the point of this movement, is that you can start so small and you can go so big if you try. But they will try to stop you at every turn. Don't get lulled into some sort of a snooze. Don't be sleepy Joe Biden. We need the high energy. We need the motivation. We need to feel like every single day we are on a war footing. We are here to fight, because these values, they will take them from us. They took them from my state. And we let it happen. We let it happen with an open border. We let it happen with a corrupt government. Selfish people running the state that I come from ruined it. The American dream no longer exists out there. We're going to fight to try to bring it back. But I want you to understand that this movement, what we have, is special. And we are on a winning streak. And now is the time to run up the score. We cannot slow down. We must run up the score right now. And there's only one way to do this. We need to get up every day like Donald Trump did in Butler, Pennsylvania 1 year ago. And we need to fight, fight, fight. And it's at that point that we can win, win, win. Thank you, everyone.